We're going to be tattooing this Good Times font tattoo right here. I will be leaving this stencil down below for you in the description so you can download and follow along with me in a step-by-step manner. I will be doing this on a sheet of real skin, fake skin. I will be using dynamic black tattooing ink. I will be leaving my Amazon affiliate links and other affiliate links for you in the description as well to the gear featured in this video in case you want to match it up as close as you'd like on your end. I'm going to be using the Stay Light tattoo machine along with an ink claw. So this one's going to be, as you can see, a bug pin 3-round liner, but it's going to have 3 at the tip of this one. And then I'm going to be using a quill 007 round liner as well for the outline. So I'm going to approach this in a basic simplistic manner where we kind of just outline, fill in everything, and then go from there. If you want to follow along and do this tattoo with me, I will be leaving a stencil link for you down below so you can download, print it out, and follow along with me in a step-by-step manner on your end. I will be leaving my Amazon affiliate links and other affiliate links for you in the description below to the gear that's featured in this video so you can check it out on your end. First and foremost, where I'm going to begin is I'm going to acknowledge where I want to start. So since I'm right-handed and I'm going to be working with my right hand, I'm going to start on this side of the design because that is closest to me. So let's say, for example, if I started over here, I'm going to have all of my hand going over the stencil here, which is going to lighten up the stencil. I could risk losing the stencil, which is what I don't want to do. So that's the reason why I'm going to go ahead and start over here and then work my way on that way. I'm also going to be running at 5 volts even, and I'm going to have my hangout around there. I'm going to start with the 7-round liner and start doing like the outline, and then I can go in and fill in with the ink claw mag in the inner areas of the letters, but I kind of want to establish the boundaries with the 7-round liner. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to start on the S right here. So this little detail out here is going to be the first detail that I apply. I'm going to take my time each and every step of the way. So I want to make sure I identify my point A, basically where I'm going and ending. So here is going to be my A point. Then I'm going to commit to the line and then bring it on over to my B, which is going to call for a taper out right there. Same thing right here. There we go. And then I'm going to bring this way and on up, just like that. So the idea is to establish the boundary of the letters so I can either fill it in with this needle or the mag as I've mentioned. So here's my A point. I'm going to navigate, making sure that I capture the needle integrity. Over to my point B, which is somewhere around there. Just like that. It looks as though there's another little detail right here that I'm going to add as well. There we go. My A point. Make my way over to this B point over here. Just like that. I'm going to dab away, get a little bit of ointment, place it over, wipe away to see exactly what we have. And that's what we're currently working with. So it's going to be a real slow, steady, consistent process. I am running at a lower voltage so I can minimize the mistakes I would potentially make, and just so that way I can kind of take my time here. I'm going to bring this around this way with the taper out right here like so. Bring it around this way. Just like so. Little detail right there. So the idea behind this is to essentially build the design as cleanly as I can, minimizing my mistakes and staying true to the integrity of the design here. There we go. And put a little bit more ointment to make sure that I'm clear here. So far so great. I don't want to get to filling in with this needle as I'm going to save that for the mag, as I feel it just kind of make my job here easier. So I'm going to taper in this line and then build up this area right here. And I'm making sure that I stay on the line as accurately as I can, as I don't want to change the weight of the letters. I want them to stay the same as this design is reading. To do that, I have to follow the stencil accurately. And you're going to notice I'm running at a lower voltage, so that way I can kind of work the way that I'm doing in a clean, consistent, paceful manner. This allows me to minimize my mistakes, which gives my work a better quality read. I'm actually going to start right here. There we go. I want to make sure all my tapers are sharp. That's just personal preference. I'm kind of picky, especially with this style. I want my tapers to be really, really sharp. There we go. I'm going to get a little bit more ointment. Make sure I have enough ink to get where I'm going. Same thing. Bring it around this way. That's my A point. Bring it around to my B point. Now, I do have a Patreon where we do loads of different follow-alongs. So if you're interested in this sort of format of video, you may want to check out my Patreon, in which I will link you down below as well. But as of right now, the S is now complete. So I have a choice. I can go ahead and switch over to the mag and start packing, or I can continue building up the letters and then pack last. To each their own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue building up all the letters, and then I'll get to the packing last, so that way I can kind of switch out the needle as I'm ready to switch it out and not have to go back and forth. I'm also going to want to remember the technique that I'm using here to apply this sort of outline, because I'm going to be using a similar technique when it comes to packing, so that way I get a consistent read from my lines to my packing. I don't want to be able to tell the difference. I want it to look all very clean, solid, consistent, and saturated. Meaning I don't want you to be able to tell that I outlined it first and then filled it in. And there's a specific technique that I use to go about accomplishing that sort of saturation. Bring it around this way. Same thing. A to B, slow and steady. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and dip for some more ink. Taper out. Bring this around this way. So the idea is, what I'm repeating over and over is just simply identifying my point A and my B point before I commit, so that way I know exactly how I'm going to go about applying those specific areas. And then I'm going to repeat. I always want to make sure that I have good adequate ink flow. I don't want to overfill to avoid pulling, but I don't want not enough either, because I need to make it from point A to B. So here's my A point. Still running at 5 volts. And taper out. Same thing right here. There we go. Then I'm going to taper into this existing line, so that way we can't tell. Even though this is all going to go packed in, you still want to put your best foot front to create these boundaries, so that way it has a clean, solid, consistent read when you're done. There we go. Same thing. Bring it around. And that way. Fantastic. And I'm just going to continue building up here in the surrounding areas. I'm going to go back for some ink right here. Doesn't look as though we have adequate ink flow going on anymore. Wipe away. That's where we are at. And then we're just going to keep continuing on that way. Now I can go ahead and kind of move on over to the D as well up here, because if I want to keep like a consistent read all the way across, it'd be ideal to kind of work on them in unison. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. And I'm going to apply these little circles here. So essentially what I'm doing is the same thing, identifying my point A and B, and I'm aligning all of my fundamentals, hand speed to voltage, making sure my posture, my position is comfortable. I have a video about this too as well on my channel, in case you're curious on my workflow, on how I apply these lines. I'm going to start right here. Taper out. There we go. Same thing this way. And I really love like the sort of organic feel of these letters. If we're making mistakes, it's likely that we'd be able to kind of get away with it, depending on the type of mistake that it is. But just because these letters aren't by any means perfect, they're not the traditional sort of style or anything, so there is a little bit of leeway. So this is more on the funner side of an exercise than it is on a challenging side, although we still have to be technically correct. It's still, I feel, on the funner side. Taper out there. Same thing right here. I'm always identifying my point A and B each and every time. And on my Patreon, I do go more in depth, kind of explaining each and every step of the way. But since we're here on YouTube, I don't really, and it's for those, open to public, I don't want to kind of say the same thing over and over and exhaust any new viewers that may be watching. So if you're interested in like real in-depth, step-by-step guidance, my Patreon is definitely the place to go. There we go. There we go. And each and every step, as I mentioned, is going to be the same routine. I will go ahead and kind of mention the routine a couple of times here, just so you kind of know what I'm thinking and doing. There we go. So I'll go ahead and explain here on the next letter after I finish this D. But you can see, so I'm always going to the most practical point that makes the most sense. So right now I felt it was better to start that side, work my way and taper out this way, while others may have felt better at the bottom. And I encourage you as an artist, go ahead and kind of make those choices. Do what feels comfortable to you. I encourage you to do so. It's exactly how we grow, improve, and get better. So next, now that I'm done with that letter D, I'm going to go to the M. And allow me to explain the process here that I'm taking. I want to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. First and foremost, I identify my point A and B. So I'm going to do this circle. Here's my A point. I'm going to make a round circle here, and my B point is going to be right here. Same thing with this guy up here, A point, B point, bring it around. Now, there is a little bit more, so here we can explain a little bit better. So my A point to B point, I'm going to identify that, make sure that I have a good needle angle, my posture, my position is comfortable, I align my hand speed to my voltage. I want to make sure that I have healthy needle depth, healthy needle angle as well, align my hand speed to my voltage, and then move at a steady, consistent pace. And I want to give my needle enough time to do its job before I move on to the next part. So you can see I'm letting the needle deposit the ink that reflects the true integrity of the line weight that I chose before I move on. And that is how I'm getting these sort of clean, solid, consistent, saturated results. Bringing this down again with a taper out. And we're going to repeat over and over and over. I want to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. I'll go back for some more here, in which I just put the tip of the needle into the ink cap. I don't put the whole thing. I'm going to bring my needle out this way. So there's my A point. Navigating on over to my B point. Taper out there. And taper out this way, like so. And here we go, and taper out. Each and every point that I touch down, like this for example, my A point has a slight taper and a taper out, taper in. Each point is going to have a taper in and out, and this is to help the lines coexist better so that way we don't get any sort of bulby points, we don't get any sort of unwanted adversities. Each and every single line that I create has a taper in and out, and it's very, very important to remember that. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing. This is actually a little circle, so I can kind of knock that out quickly here. There we go. I'm going to go back for some more ink to make sure I have adequate ink flow. And then I'm going to identify A point, B point, hand speed to voltage, posture positions comfortable, needle angle is accurate, slow, steady, and consistent with a taper out. Bring it back around and essentially repeat going this way. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and keep working. So now I'm going to move on over to the O. I feel like once we have a series of steps that we kind of use and follow throughout each and every tattoo, we're going to start producing cleaner results. It's just a matter of having a certain level of patience throughout the process, I feel. And it's also important to remember that you don't have to fill it in full saturation if you didn't want to. You can approach it with shading if you want to practice that. I figured since I'm directing this more towards beginners who may not be comfortable with this sort of style, I figured we try to keep it more on the simplistic side, so I feel packing would be the correct technique to go with. There we go. Perfection, and then I'm going to go this way I mean, obviously it's not perfect, but it is the best that I can do, and that's good enough for me. So you also want to have some practical expectations from the work that you're doing and producing here. So here's my A point right here. I'm going to bring it around to my B point. Slow, steady, consistent. Posture, position, direction, needle angle, needle depth. All of this matters. Each and every time, it's just going to simply repeat over and over and over until the design is done. So we really do have to have a certain level of patience if we're going to get into tattooing and want to do good work. There we go. There we go. Okay, so the process is essentially going to repeat 4 more times with the remaining letters, and then we can switch on over to the packing. One thing that I want to encourage is to really take your time. There's no need to rush a tattoo ever. So I'm going to go over here now. I really do love the organic feel of this style here. I feel like this is a good exercise to allow us to get into text, especially if we're not comfortable doing any sort of like font or text. I'm going to go this way to experiment with a taper type right here. I want to see how sharp I can get this taper. There we go. Same thing over here. And I'm going to go back for some more ink and get a little bit of ointment. See what we're working with. So far, so clean. Happy with these results. One thing that I say a lot is if you're not happy with the results that you're yielding right now, it's important to be patient, calm, cool, collected. Be kind to yourself along the way. I'm sorry if that sounds cliche or silly, but it's the truth. Life's already difficult, so there's no reason that we need to beat ourselves up more. We have to remember that tattooing is a slow burn process, and it's going to take a lot of time to get good and acquainted, or even just acquainted with it. So be kind to yourself, especially if you're just starting. Be patient. I think it took me like 2 years to understand lining, and like almost another year or so to figure out shading a bit. So it is a slow burn process, and it really does require patience and time. So if you're not liking your results, don't be too hard on yourself. It's better that we just finish the follow along, come back in like a day or two, give it like 3 days, depending on how bad your time is right now, and then try it again. You're going to see on the 4th or 5th try that you're going to be doing a lot better, that you are going to see gradual improvements. There we go. Go ahead and taper out right there. I'm going to go back for some more ink flow so I can continue with the remaining letters. Same thing, so I'm going to repeat exactly what we did with the other O on this one here. My A point. So hopefully you can see that throughout this real-time process that it is just trial and error, over and over and over. The same thing gets repeated. Now it's going to take us a little bit to get to that point though where we can kind of call on our basics. For example, lining like the way I am on demand. You have to go through the motions. There's really no way around the progress but through it. And that also may sound cliche enough. I'm sorry if I'm annoying you here, but I feel like this is really the truth. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go back for some more ink here. Keep identifying my point A to B. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of navigate to these little details here. And I feel like since the G is a little bit closer, I can probably navigate on over to the G and then finish the remaining part right here. So you can see how all of this is done. I have more freedom now to move over this area because it's already tattooed. I'm not going to lose the area that's already been tattooed. I have much more freedom to apply this area technically sound, which is going to produce better results. And that I am all for. I'm going to dab away. I'm going to get a little bit of ink flow here, just so I avoid any issues with ink flow. And I'm going to keep building these areas right here. So this is going to be the G for the good times. And taper out. A little dab right there. Same thing right here. There we go. I'm going to go for some more ink. A little bit of ointment here. My point A. And you'll notice that I kept my tempo the same throughout the entire application, and I feel like that's really what's contributing to the consistent read that I'm obtaining here, or that I'm getting with these results. There we go. There we go. So from here, I'm going to move on over to the T. For those that are wondering if I've blown any of this tattoo out, you can see that no, we have not. We're doing great here. We're at a good, healthy needle depth as well. So everything is aligning. All the fundamentals are coming through. And again, if you're not happy with the results you're producing, it takes time. We have to go through the motions. We have to make the mistakes so that way we know what not to do. So allow yourself to make those mistakes. I'm going to do this little dot here. There we go. So A point, B point all the way through, like so. So each and every step of the way, I'm constantly identifying my point A and my point B. It's something that I'm always saying to myself because I need to know where I'm navigating to and why. I'm going to go back for some more ink here. And I'm going to taper out. And taper out. I'm going to go back for a little bit more ink here, just so I have enough to make it from here to here. And I'll be ready to switch on over to the mag now to begin the packing in of the letters. So here are the results that I got so far. Everything looks nice and clean. From here, I'm kind of free to kind of start packing wherever I want. Since I'm not really in or worried about losing any part of the stencil anymore, it's gonna be wherever I wanna go from here. So the same rule will apply to you. If you wanna start this way, that way, this way, to each their own. There really is no right or wrong. So much like lining, I'm going to approach it the exact same way with packing. I'm going to stay at 5 volts. I'm going to hang out my needle around there. I want to be able to see the tips of my needles as I'm packing, so right around there. And I'm going to use this needle to pack and saturate here. I encourage you to use what size needle you feel comfortable with. The technique is going to apply to pretty much any needle that we choose to use, whether it's a round liner, round mag, doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to identify A to B. So I'm going to start on this side. I'm going to use small circular motions until I reach on over to the other side. Just like that. I know it may be hard to see because of the pulling, but that's how it's going to go. Let me get a little bit of ointment so that way you can kind of see here the results. That's very clean right there. So there's my A point. So for example, my A point is going to be like right here. Make sure I commit the needles, and then I'm going to make small circular motions going to my B point, which is going to be up top. I always want to make sure that I have adequate ink flow as well. There we go. A point, small circular motions until I make my way on over to my B point, like that. And I'm going to repeat that exact same technique throughout the entire design here. Now, this is what I mentioned earlier. We want to have a sort of similar technique that we did when we're lining, so that way we can accomplish that level of saturation. So to do that, I need to be able to see my A point to my B point, and then I use a series of small circular motions to completely saturate the area, as you see me doing here. So here's my A point. Going over to my B point. Small circular motions, and you can see that I'm going into the line that I lined to establish the boundary, and this is where it really ties in. I feel like this is where it really gets that sort of saturation look there, and you can't tell if it was lined or just straight packed, which is exactly what we want. So it'd be the same thing. So here's my A point. Small circular motions. I'm going to adjust and then do the same thing. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go back for some more ink, adequate ink flow. So A to B, small circular motions, going all the way up to the line for full saturation. Packing also is a world of its own, much like shading and lining. So again, if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, you really have to just stick with it and make the mistakes. I also have a series of tattooing workbooks that are designed to help you in your development for lining, shading, packing, designs, and more, textures, dot work. They're available on Amazon, so if you head over to Amazon.com, type in Daniel Yuck, you will be able to see all of my assorted tattooing workbooks. So here we go. A point. Small circular motions. Just like so. Same thing, so here's my A point, starting from this side. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and get some more ink here and essentially repeat this. Here's my A point, bringing it down, clean and consistent. And you're going to notice that it really doesn't matter what direction I go in. You're not going to be able to tell when I'm done where I came from. That's the level of saturation that we want. Even if I get a generous amount of ointment, apply it, wipe it away, the ink that I just applied ain't going anywhere. And this is exactly what we want. And how I do that is by following this technique right here as I'm doing here real time with you all. Running at a very low voltage. There we go. I may have to get a little bit more ink here. And just use a sort of dot work approach to apply that. So that's going to be that letter. I'm going to continue with the remaining letters. For those who are curious, these are the results right here. I'm going to continue that workflow for the E right here. So I want to make sure that I have adequate ink flow, make sure that I have ointment in the area that I'm going to be tattooing. Not too much, not too little. Pick somewhere to start. Identify point A and B. And don't be afraid to apply it as cleanly as we can, using this technique of small circular motions as you see me using here. Don't think about overworking skin either. That shouldn't really be the forefront focus. The focus should be paying attention to the areas that you're depositing ink into and paying attention to your small circular motions. That should be the forefront thought, I feel. I'll go ahead and go this way. Just tip the mag a little bit. Perfect. Same thing. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and go back for some more ink and put some ointment to see exactly where we are at. If I see any areas that I kind of need to go back up and touch over, I will go back and touch them up as needed without worrying about overworking the skin. I'm running at a lower voltage, so I get more time to kind of layer up my saturation as opposed to running at 6, 7, or 8 volts and then having to pack quickly. So if you notice that you're chewing up your skin while you're packing, you may be running at a setting. You may be running a little too high, or your technique may be just wrong. I'm actually just using the very tip of my needle as well. And I'm sorry to bore you here, but I do have a video that I just recently made that shares with you how I go about getting this level of saturation in depth. Like, I explain the process step by step. That one's also available on my YouTube channel for you to check out. I'm going to do the same thing this way over here. Same thing. So a point, circular motions. There we go. There we go. So you can see that typically I get the level of saturation that I want within the first pass of packing, which is a good sign that I'm familiar with my technique and the results that I get. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that with this part of the E right here. You're going to notice that I just kind of switch my mag, like I'll maneuver it this way, for example, and then kind of A to B it. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of ink here so I can finish this out. A point, B point, A point, B point, A point, and then B point. And you're going to notice that my circular motions are neighboring one another well, meaning I really don't speed up. Once I start and stick to a specific tempo, that's where I stay. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get some more ointment, clean this up, and then I'm gonna move on over to the next letter. So from here on out, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that this way. Well, maybe not from here on out, but for this letter M here. A to B, A to B. A to B. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more ink here and continue. So here's my A point. You're going to notice I'm going over in the existing black there just slightly, And that's how I avoid getting blotchy results as well, because each section is packed in the same as a neighboring. That's what's providing me with the consistency, and the spacing in between each one is giving me that solid saturation. So there's multiple elements that are moving that allow me to accomplish these results here. I just have to align my fundamentals and my basics to work this way here. And then I'm going to go for some more ink. Same thing. You really want good lighting too when you're packing. I think good lighting is essential to see exactly what you're doing. There we go. Very nice and clean. Just gonna keep it going here. There we go. I'm gonna get some more ink here. I think a common misconception too with packing is that if we're moving too slow, we're overworking the skin. If we're moving too fast, we're overworking. So no matter what we do, we're going to be overworking is what it seems like to some people who maybe not fully understanding different techniques or how ink is deposited. But what I would say is if you're noticing results where where you actually see everything is obviously overworked, well, obviously we have some, things that we need to change about our technique. So that's like non-negotiable. But if you're getting, decent results with a little bit of patchiness, and I would rather get a little bit of patchiness than overworking the skin. But either way, I encourage you to make the mistakes, because even if you're overworking the skin, you're going to know what not to do after doing it a certain amount of time. So you can see if I see areas that I need to go back over, I'm going to go back over them. I'm not going to think twice about overworking. If I do see that overworked areas, I feel like that's why paying attention to my technique every step of the way is important. So that way I know what I did. I can kind of trace my steps back to the technique that I was using and not use that technique again. I figured we kind of finish out the times and then we can go for the good. I feel like that would be a good way to go about this. So even right now, what I'm doing is I'm experimenting with slowing down just a little bit and making smaller circles. It still feels natural. It doesn't feel like I'm overworking the skin or trying too hard. But it also feels like I'm accomplishing even tighter saturation. Now, why I say this is to let you know that learning your techniques is going to be constant trial and error. Like, you're going to have to try and you're going to have to try. You're going to have to make the mistakes and you're going to have to keep making them until you've accomplished the results that you were looking for. That's essentially the road to tattooing and learning. There's no way around the mistakes but through them. I am working off the very tip of my needle. I'm not driving the needles into the skin. What I'm doing is giving the needle enough time to work, and that's what you're seeing here. I'm not forcefully pushing the needle into the skin at all. I'm going to go ahead and adjust. Perfect. Well, not perfect, but you get the idea. I'm liking these results here. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and move on over to the I and then the T. Let's see the outcome. Those are clean results as well. I'm going to go ahead and get some more ink here. There we go. A little back and forth there. So hopefully you're still following along. Maybe you're keeping at the same tempo that I am. Maybe you're ahead of me or on a different letter or behind me. But hopefully you're still following along with me here. I'm going to go for some more ink here. Make sure that I have adequate ink flow. Moisturize the area a bit. And we're going to continue. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my mag to get up here a little bit. Very nice. And I'm gonna go ahead and continue to get more ink and apply the rest of the tea here. I kind of like using those tighter motions like that. I feel like I accomplish more saturation. Or like I feel like I accomplish a tighter level of saturation. Okay, there we go. So that'll be the tea. I'm gonna apply some ointment to see if there's any patchiness or anything going on. If I need to touch up anything, I will do that. Next is the tea. Same process, different letter. There we go. I'm going to go back for some more ink here and continue. Very clean. I'm going to go ahead and continue. I have a tendency to want to rush, but that's exactly what's going to cause that sort of patchy, inconsistent results. So I have to remember that each section needs to be deposited the same as the last. And once I start remembering those fundamentals and the techniques, it kind of just helps me naturally slow down to align all of those fundamentals. Just kind of brushing over to fill in everything. I'm going to go ahead and get some more ink here. And turn my mag this way. If there's any spots that I see that kind of need filling in that are apparent, I'll go ahead and do that. But right now I'm going to get some ointment. We're going to clean this up, take a look at the results, and see what we have. This is where we are currently at right now. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the good, and we can call this session a wrap. But so far, so clean. I feel like the size of the mag isn't as important as the way that you're using it. So for example, here's a masked 11 round mag. So this is a larger mag than what I was using right now. I'll still be able to get the same results in probably a fraction of the time, just simply because there's more needles. However, if I am not familiar with a technique, or I don't have a game plan on how I'm going to go about using this needle, then I can go out of bounds and really start losing the integrity and kind of ruining and or jeopardizing the design, which is what we don't want to do. So if we're not comfortable with certain needle sizing, we shouldn't use them. We should use what we can anticipate the results on. I'm going to stick to the same voltage here. That's quite a bit of pulling. So since I'm pulling a bit here, I'm going to go into a more open spot that I can see here. And the technique is going to stay the exact same. All that changed was the needle configuration and where I am depositing the black ink. So this is one of those areas where if I'm not careful, I can start compromising the integrity of this little section here, which is what I don't want to do, so I'm going to use my mag and turn it this way, as you see me doing. So because I have more needles, I'm able to saturate in more sections at a time as opposed to little sections, and that could speed up the workflow. The idea is not to necessarily go faster, but to prove that if our technique is correct, we can use pretty much any mag that we'd like, as long as it's not too large or too small for certain areas. So when I need to get into a tighter area, I'll just simply kind of tip my mag off to the edge like so. So that way I can use fewer needles. Then I'm going to kind of continue here. Exact same technique. Just different section. I'll get a little bit more ointment, maybe even a little more ink here. My tempo still also stays the same. I'm not rushing or slowing down. Just because I switched to a different needle, I'm staying at the exact same pace that I have been. So that way I stay with that sort of same saturation and consistency that I'm doing right now and that I have been doing. Get a little bit more ink here. Since this area is a little tighter, you see me using the tip of the side of the mag really. And then from here, same thing. Just tip the mag and continue. And I don't lose any of the integrity of the sharp points or anything like that. Those have already been established. All I have to do is just pay attention to those boundaries so that way I don't go over them and compromise the integrity of the design. Now it's going to be off to the O. I'm just using the very tip of the needle. I'm not sure if you can kind of see them working, but the needles, I'm just using the very edge of them. You're going to see that I just use circular motions. Until I get to the area that I need to get to. Dab away, and you can see that I'm accomplishing complete saturation. I'm going to tip my mag this way as to not compromise the integrity there. Okay, and then move on over to this side right here. Excuse me. Forgive me for my raspy throat. I've been sick for a bit here. So there we go. You can kind of see though how I use the mag and turn it, and then I still use those circular motions as you see me, for example right here. This is a good demonstration. Still those round circular motions to apply this saturation. And then when I put some ointment wipe away, you're going to see that all of it's clean and even. I always get a look at it from multiple angles. If there's any areas that I feel like should go a little bit more saturated, I just simply go back over those. I don't want to overwork the skin though, because especially with real skin, once we start overworking it, then we kind of start getting like patchy results. So you kind of want to be in and out with packing on real skin as best we can. And then these fundamentals here are going to translate over to human skin. The next ones are going to be the G or the O and then the G. So I'm going to basically approach the O the exact same way. And then these areas I just kind of, same thing, just circular motions, or I'll just go back and forth like that. So you can see how I'm going right up to the edge. Here's another example. Right up to the edge, and I'm making round circular motions. There we go. I'm going to go back for some more ink just to make sure that I have adequate ink flow all the way. Excuse me. Kind of bring it this way and then still follow the same flow. I'm going to turn the mag this way. Same thing right here. Same thing right here. There we go. I'm gonna go back for some more ink here. Gotta have adequate ink flow. Okay, so that'll be it for the O. That's nice and clean. Multiple angles, it looks good. Now I'm just gonna finish the G. You're gonna notice it's gonna be the same routine. Nothing is going to change. Since everything is locked in, it doesn't really matter where I start. But I like to basically start right here, for example. And I'm gonna kind of finish this area instead of going over here and then over here. So I'm just gonna start on one area and then kind of finish that as a whole. And then go to another area that's nearby. So like this. And you can see we kind of connected with the first area. And for those who are wondering if I would use this technique on human skin, yes, this is the exact same technique that I would use to pack on human skin. Definitely, it's going to vary from artist to artist. For me, I like to pack at a lower voltage, use the very tip of my needle and make, slower, consistent circular motions. Not too slow, not too fast. This is my technique right here. So kind of take what you want, leave what you don't, align it to your settings. So now I'm going to come back over here and then continue this area since it's right below what I was just working on. And that's essentially the logic. My tempo's not going to change just because it's the last letter. I'm not going to start working faster or anything like that. I'm still going to go above and beyond every step of the way here. Anywhere I can, I will do so. Now, if you're still with me, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell. If you like this video, I will be bringing more follow-alongs. I do also have a series of other follow-alongs as well that are already on my channel that I think you'll love. There we go. Same thing right here. And then from here, tip my mag right here. Now, I know to some who are watching this, they're probably telling themselves that this is a wrong technique, that I'm going to chew up human skin. I assure you I won't. That's definitely going to vary from artist to artist. My hit right now is pretty soft. My voltage is pretty low. My technique is pretty accurate. So therefore, knowing all of the fundamentals minimizes me causing unwanted trauma to the skin, simply because I can be in and out in just a pass or two. And this tighter edge, I'm going to just tip the mag like so and follow like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and wipe away all the excess, give you a top view, and show you the final results here. Okay, so here are the final results. This is what I am working with. You can see we wipe away, everything has been cleaned off. This is the final results that I got for this Good Times Follow Along tattoo. For those who were curious if I blew this out, we can see in the back, no I did not. We can definitely see the packing a little bit, but no blowouts whatsoever, any way, shape, or form. I do like the results that I got. I do feel like I got great saturation. I captured the integrity as well. I was able to use multiple needles and get these results. So I do hope that you were able to get some results that you were happy with on your end. However, if you didn't, it's important to remember that you got to be kind, patient, and you have to be kind and calm and patient with yourself, so that way you can continue to stay motivated and inspired to keep going. Tattooing is a slow burn process. It requires attention, it requires care, it requires effort day in, day out. So it is a slow burn process that we have to be patient with. I feel like when we are tattooing, we are not to rush to any extent to yield the best possible results that we can possibly get. Now, that'll be it for this follow along. If you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I'll do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. I do hope that you can take something from this video and immediately apply to your workflow to improve your tattooing. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. I do also have social medias under the same name as this YouTube. I have Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, all under Daniel Yuck. I would appreciate the support over there as well. If you found this video helpful, share it with a friend that you feel can find value within this video, as I would greatly appreciate that as well. With that being said, thank you for your time. I appreciate you watching. Have a great day.